welcome to the Intuitively Wild podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Levine. Living intuitively wild is about coming back home to ourselves. Here we talk about how to live connected to ourselves, others, and nature, and make a commitment to radical authenticity, vulnerability, and acceptance. On this podcast, we delve into a wide range of topics that span the human experience. We peel back the layers and talk about the things that are often not talked about. This is a space for us all to walk and wander this path of life together. Let's dig into our roots and go deep. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Intuitively Wild, the podcast. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to be connecting with you all today. I'm currently sitting on the floor in my parents' house in New York, watching the spring sunshine turn to stormy clouds. And we had some thunder a couple minutes ago, which Theo is very afraid of, but honestly, it's one of my favorite weather occurrences. I love a storm. And I'm excited to share with you all what's been on my mind and going on in my life the last few weeks and months, really. I've been having a lot of moments of reflecting and reassessing, and there's been a lot of changes that have come from these moments of reflection and sitting in this in-between space I still find myself in. And so I'm going to share some of what's been coming up for me. The first is around social media, which if you go back to my most recent solo, which will have been 3 episodes before this, I talk about my little social media hiatus and why I decided to go on that social media disconnect and what I was feeling. And I'm still kind of in it. At first, the intention was a week, and then it turned into 2 weeks, and now I'm still kind of sitting in it. I've been touching base, going on once a week, and I think that will increase over time, but I'm still figuring out exactly how I want to invest my energy into social media. And I've kind of figured it out. But the integration of that will come in a little bit of time. So there will be changes over there, but I'm very excited about them. The biggest being that Intuitively Wild was never meant to be a personal brand. It was never meant to be about Rachel. It was never meant to be kind of like an influencer type thing. And it kind of, I feel like it's taken that role more than I would like it to. I think the balance has been swayed in that favor because I share my thoughts and my lessons and my learnings and what's going on with me, and it's coming from that I place, and I'm sharing my offerings and my work. But really what I want to build is a lifestyle brand and a community. And so I'm going to be making a big shift from just talking as Rachel to speaking from the soul of Intuitively Wild, and then hopping on and also sharing as Rachel, the founder and owner of Intuitively Wild, but not wanting to be known as, Intuitively Wild is Rachel. Intuitively Wild is its own entity, and it was always meant to be that. And I think also I'm just making, I'm getting clear as I go on. I feel like the vision of what my brand and business is meant to be gets clearer and clearer, and I'm just stepping into that more and more and figuring out as I go. And I'm letting that be okay. And I think also for me right now, that feels like the only way, putting into action what I can in the moment and then realizing what the next step is through that movement. I think that some people have they're like, I'm putting out this brand. And so they just market the brand and they have that idea, or I'm going to be an influencer, and they just go on and talk about the things. And for me, I think it's taken a different approach, and the only way I've been able to figure out what is right is by living it. So that is the process I'm undergoing with social media right now. And I think it will also incorporate some help and some other voices coming in there, but all speaking from the soul of Intuitively Wild, living intuitively and intentionally and authentically, and ritualizing intentional living. That's the slogan I'm going with right now. Would love to hear your thoughts. And there's a lot more projects and exciting things in the work that I just can't wait to tell you guys about, but more on that soon. But the biggest thing is I just want to be more and more intentional with my social media use, and again, not go on as Rachel and take in content from other people from a personal level. I really want to try my hardest only to interact with social media as the founder and owner of Intuitively Wild, and not get caught up in the rest of the noise, because for me that just hasn't been serving me and it hasn't felt good. And I just want to focus on what is truly in alignment for me and what is truly helpful for me and building this business in the way I want to, and impacting people in the way I want to. And for me, it's too much to do it any other way. And it doesn't feel aligned right now, at least. And of course, I'm not perfect. You know, we all have our moments where we spend that time on social media, and that is totally fine. I'm not seeking perfection, but these are my intentions, and this is what feels really good for me right now. Because I want to make the main thing real life, and creating and putting things out in the real world and connecting in the real world and sharing what is impactful and helpful, and not getting caught up in the virtual world, not getting taken out of my body and taken out of the magic of what is happening here and now. And someone said something to me recently, which is, and I can't remember their exact wording, but something along the lines of, only speak when you are adding value or creating the energy you want to receive. And that really spoke to me, because our words are so powerful and our energy is so powerful. And we use a lot of words mindlessly, just to take up space or to hurt or harm or unconsciously. And even just small talk can sometimes be a distraction and numbing, to fill empty space. And I want to be even more intentional with my words, and really, go on social media and think to myself, what do I need to share and say in this moment that adds value and will really help people and will share the energy that I am trying to embody and put out into the world? Because that is always the goal. And I think that in the past, a lot of my words and my actions came from a desire to be seen in a certain way and perceived in a certain way, and to create a business that was seen or perceived in a certain way and understood in a certain way. And I think I'm giving up on being understood or trying to control how to be seen, how I'm seen all the time, because I'm realizing it is impossible. It's impossible, because people are not going to understand us in the exact way we desire. Everyone is always seeing the world through their unique perspectives. Everyone has their own projections and opinions and experiences that color the way that they see things and the way that they will view you and me and the world. And so instead of seeking to present and explain myself in a way that others will understand, I'm now directing my energy towards my intentions even more. Because our intention is the only thing we can control, really. Where we put our intentions is where our energy goes. And our energy is what interacts with the universe to manifest what our intentions are calling in. So I can't control that someone sees me as... So although I have no control over how people will see me or if they'll understand me or even understand my intentions, but I can walk into the room and have the intention to be of service or have the intention to be a light or be compassionate or be a good listener or just be present. And that energy is what will rub off on people. Because whether we realize it or not, our energy is what we imprint people with. So their conscious mind might perceive us one way, even be like, oh, I don't like this person or they're annoying me. But our energy is what goes with them. And if you are embodying pure energy, pure in the sense that you're trying to add value and impact people with good energy, it will be received whether they consciously realize it or not. Because I don't want to spend any more time anxious or disappointed or frustrated around feeling misunderstood or not fully seen. Because the right people will understand you and will fully see you. But focusing on my energy and my intentions and embodying that and really putting my devotion and my energy into that, that is what will impact the world. Because we can control the energy we are putting out into the world through our intentions. And that will impact the world more than having others perceiving us as this perfect, exact version we would like them to. So a question I would love for you to ponder is, how can you focus on your intentions and embody the energy you want to put out into the world over the desire to be understood and perceived in a certain way? That's been a big thing for me recently. And it's felt like a really good shift in my thought process and my energy. And then the other thing that I would love to share with you guys is that I am moving. And this is something I alluded to in my other most recent solo podcast. So I'm not sure which episode number, but if you look for the solo before this last one, I was talking about changes and certain things I was going to, but I wasn't quite ready yet to share specifics. And so now I would like to announce that I am moving from Asheville. And this is a decision that I knew was coming for a while. Honestly, when I first got to Asheville, I immediately felt in my gut, my intuition was like, I'm not sure this is the place. I'm not sure I'm going to love it here. And that was really hard for me to bring myself to accept. I felt it right away. So I was like, oh, I just want to like it. Like, I don't want to move again. But I did feel it right away. And I gave it the time. I wanted to see what would happen and how it would feel and evolve. And, I love the nature there. I love the mountains. And I love the forests, and there's so much beauty there and so much magic there. And at the same time, it hasn't felt like home, and it hasn't felt in flow and aligned for me. And so I've been processing that and sitting with that, and also being open to what comes through for next steps. And at first I thought maybe Theo and I would do a road trip this summer and just bop around to different places and then see where we landed after that. But while that does sound amazing, my heart really wants to find a community and to focus on my business and establishing it and finding a home. And one aspect of Asheville that was really challenging is that every time I tried to go out and be more social, it felt like there was some energetic block. It literally felt like every time I tried to do that, my body said no, not here, no. And then I would go to New York to visit my family and feel so social. And I would be in the city and I would want to do things and I would want to go out, and it felt so freeing and like a sigh of relief. And I started to want to spend more and more time in New York. And, that was easy for me because I have a lot of friends all around New York and a lot of family in New York and different places I could stay. And it was, I had that opportunity. So I spent more time in New York, and I started to realize maybe I'll spend even more time in New York. And this was the hardest thing for me to come to terms with, that I was even thinking about moving back to New York, because I thought I would if there was one thing I thought I would never do in my entire life, it would be, honestly, was to move back to the East Coast, but even more so, move back to New York. I spent my whole life excited to move away from New York, and then as soon as I could, I traveled. I studied abroad 3 times in college, and then I moved to Hawaii, and then I moved to California, and then I moved to the UK, and then I moved to Asheville, and in between those trips, there was some traveling, and I never thought I would move back to New York, and it really shook me, even the idea of it. It really was kind of an identity crisis. I was like, who am I if I'm not living in some exotic place or traveling or doing something different? Like, I couldn't wrap my head around being normal and moving back to New York and being closer to my family. And I really had to ask myself why and break down that attachment and that identity and the sense of self that was wrapped up in that and threatened my ego, really. I won't go into that part too much because I do go into that whole process in depth in that solo I was talking about. So I highly recommend listening to that because it was a really hard process for me, and also it was really freeing to look at this identity I had wrapped myself up in and unwrap it, only because I don't need to latch onto an identity to define myself. I am a traveler, I am a wanderer, I am a free spirit, and I feel called to New York right now. And that's beautiful. So I started to do some research. I had a list of what I was looking for and needed in a community and in a town and in a home. And I found a new home. So I'll be moving to upstate New York because this girl will never be able to survive full time in the city or, the suburbs like I grew up in. And I found a really beautiful place, and I'm really looking forward to it. And I was up there the other week, and I was able to spend some time there, and it coincided with this social media disconnect, and that was really perfect to be able to spend some time in my new place while being really present and releasing and letting go of a lot of things and shifting a lot of things. It was during the eclipse too, and I was able to see the eclipse while I was upstate, so it just felt really powerful. And then I was able to drive into the city and spend some time in the city. And then I was able to drive to my parents' house and spend some time with my family. And, it felt really good. It felt really good. And I'm hopeful. And I have to say that the situation with Asheville did take a little knock off my trust with myself because it wasn't what I was expecting. And that could easily lead me down the road of, oh, I can't trust my intuition. I can't trust myself. And at first I was like, how can I trust that New York's the right place when Asheville didn't turn out how I thought it would? But the thing is, my intuition told me to go to Asheville, and I went to Asheville and I got the lessons and the learnings and the experiences that I needed. And it was a stepping stone to this next step. And it doesn't mean I can't trust my intuition. It just means that I didn't know why my intuition was telling me to go there. And that's fine. And I'm leaning into that trust once again. And it takes a lot of courage. And that is what Intuitively Wild is all about: listening and following and trusting. So I am heading back to Asheville this weekend. And when you are listening to this, I'm recording this a week before this is released. So I will be in Asheville as you are listening to this. And I'm there for a couple more weeks, and then end of May I'll be fully packed up and moving back to New York. I don't know what's going to come of it. I have no idea what's going to unfold and what magic is waiting for me, but I know that it's the exact medicine that I'm needing right now. And I'm excited to watch Intuitively Wild bloom in this new space because I really feel like it's a move for the brand in a lot of ways, because it's really based in community and connection. And I think I will be able to foster that more in this new community. And I had a friend recently ask me, what are your plans for the rest of your time in Asheville? What are you creating space for? And I thought that was a really beautiful question. And immediately my thoughts went to, oh, I have to prepare for the move and have this whole releasing, or kind of control what this last few weeks of my time in Asheville will look like, what this transition from one chapter to the next will look like. And what I realized when I realized that my thoughts were going in that direction was, I just want to create space for whatever I feel to be present. If I feel grief, if I feel sadness, if I feel nervous, if I feel excited, hopeful, angry, frustrated, I want to let it all come up, and I want to sit with it and feel it and be compassionate to it and understanding with it and accepting of it. And it's just a reminder that we can't control the situation. We can't control how we're going to feel about the situation, how it's going to unfold, how it's going to impact us, but we can control how we respond to it, and we can create the space for ourselves to feel all the emotions we need to feel and move through all the internal and external experiences that we need to. And so I hope that you're honoring whatever is coming up for you and just creating space for it and not trying to control it or predict it or put your emotions on some sort of timeline or have any expectations for how something is meant to make you feel. And just being curious with your emotions and what makes you feel a certain way and why. Because sometimes we don't know. Sometimes there's more to an emotion than just the surface level would have us believe. And I'm really curious what is coming up for you guys and what you're working through and what your intuition is pulling you towards and leaning you towards. I've been talking to a lot of friends who are having different realizations around connection and community and friendship, and also a lot around solitude and independence, and really at the core of it, what does home mean to me? And what do I need in a relationship? And what does that look like? And what does that feel like? And why? What is at the root of that? And so I'm curious if any of those themes are prevalent in your life right now, or if they're something that would be helpful for you to lean into and think about. I'm also starting to lean more and more away from one-off sessions. So if you are desiring any human design guidance around family, relationships, or solo reading, I would jump into that soon, because that might not be an offering in the near future. But I'm leaning more and more towards my mentorship offering and working with people more in the long term for 1, 3, 6 months. So if that's something you're interested in, please reach out to me. I would love to talk to you about it. I will be launching it even more officially soon, but I'm not taking many clients in that capacity. So if you are interested, please reach out and we can see if it's a good fit for you. With all that being said, I hope that you are really leaning into your rituals and prioritizing rituals over routines and finding magic in the mundane. And honestly, isn't that how we turn our routines into rituals? By finding the magic in them and by being really present with them and in awe of what is there, in awe of the simplicity that is present for us when we are present with it. That's something that, to bring this full circle, that is something that being more disconnected from social media helps me do, because I can be more present. I can go on a walk and not be on my phone. I can think more clearly. I can notice the colors. It's so cliche, but I have been noticing the colors of the leaves more brightly and the clouds shifting forms more acutely and the change in the air. It's also springtime, so of course the colors are brighter and the flowers are out, but it is no coincidence that it feels more magical. Everything feels more bright and alive because it's not muted by my overstimulated, dysregulated brain that is distracted and stuffed with noise and stuff. Okay, those are my ramblings for today. I'm done. I really hope you enjoyed this episode and that you got something out of it. If not, just some things to think about, some takeaways. I hope it leaves you with something to ponder over. I will be back soon and I can't wait to connect with you all then. If you have any thoughts or ponderings that you want to share, please reach out to me either through social media or email, and I would just love to hear from you. Also, if you have a moment and you are enjoying this podcast, it would mean so much to me if you left a rating and review. It really means the world. So thank you, and thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Intuitively Wild, the podcast. I hope it helped deepen your connection to yourself, sparked some insights, and inspired you to live intuitively wild. If you enjoyed this podcast, it would mean so much to me if you would share it with others and leave a rating and review. And please reach out to me. I would love to connect with you. I will see you next time for more magic.